Sea turtle nesting season is in full swing. Now through September, one of the ocean's most endangered species nest and hatch along our beaches. Mary Skoruppa with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is here to discuss how we can come together to protect sea turtles during nesting season. Good morning. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Good morning, Zach.
You know, I spent some time in Florida. I lived in Florida for several years, and this is a big deal. It matters a lot to people there, and I know it matters a lot to people here. But one thing I learned throughout my time there was that our actions matter. We all play a part in making sure these creatures are safe and healthy. Where do we start? With that said, where do we start?
We start by sharing the beach with our sea turtles, which is a part of our heritage. We have driving on the beach in Texas, so we need to be careful and be on the lookout and do what we need to do when you see one.
With that said, Mary Kay, what are the proper steps we should take when someone encounters, whether it be a sea turtle or a nesting sea turtle or a nest?
Well, we have a hotline number, so the first thing that we would want to do is to protect that turtle. Don't disturb her. If it's a nesting female, then you want to give her her space and prevent other people from coming up to the turtle and keep the vehicles away from potentially running over the vehicle, and call that 1-866-TURTLE-5 phone number, and someone will come to help protect that nest.
And when we talk about protecting that nest, I recall in Florida, they would put perimeters up. They would use yardstick-like pieces of wood with ribbon to mark off these nests. Is that what they do here in Texas as well?
We go a step further in Texas because we are the northern extent of the primary nesting range of the most endangered sea turtle of them all, and that's the Kemp's Ridley. So here in Texas, we actually relocate the nest to protected incubation. And that's because this species, the Kemp's Ridley, almost went extinct in the 80s. I mean, we lost like 99% of them due to poaching and getting drowned in fishing nets for commercial fisheries. We've reversed that trend. We've saved the species from extinction, but we're still recovering it and trying to reestablish the secondary nesting colony in Texas because the species is very unusual in that over 70% of all nests are laid in this one little 20-mile stretch in Tamaulipas, Mexico. So if there was ever a catastrophic event, you know, you could wipe out the species. So we want to ensure that we have a secondary nesting colony in Texas, and to do that, we're taking really extreme measures to protect the nests, to make sure as many survive as possible, to keep that species going for future generations.
Yeah, the work you do is really incredible. Talk to us about the different types of sea turtles. I know you mentioned that one species we can anticipate to see here in Texas, but what other types of sea turtles do we have here along the Gulf Coast in Texas?
That's a great question because while the Kemp's Ridley is our state sea turtle in Texas, we also have loggerheads that nest. In the southern part of the state, we have green sea turtles. There's actually 5 species that have been on the Texas coast, even the huge leatherbacks, which has nested in the past in South Texas. But by far, for the upper Texas coast, loggerheads and Kemp's Ridleys are the 2 nesting species. In the water year-round, though, we also have the green sea turtle, which is real common.
What beaches in Texas see the most sea turtle nests each year?
For the upper Texas coast, Galveston Island and Surfside have probably the most, but by far the most nests in Texas are going to be on the lower coast, where we have, you know, around 200 or so every year, up to 300 if you count all the species.
And if you've never seen a nest before, they truly are really remarkable. How many eggs can be found inside these nests?
Quite a few, usually anywhere from 80 to 100 eggs, are in a nest. So that's a bunch.
Yeah.
Everyone counts.
That they do, right? Talk to us about some other threats these turtles face during this nesting season, and touch upon, if you can, light pollution.
I'm sorry, touch upon what?
The impact lights have on these turtles.
Okay. Well, the natural threat is just predators. Predation, that's a natural. But unfortunately, there's so many human-induced threats now. I mentioned vehicles already. Poaching still happens. Trash. If we dig holes on the beach, that could be an obstacle to the nesters. Lighting is another thing. You mentioned Florida. They have lots of condominiums. They don't have the vehicles on the beach like we do, but they have lots of lighting issues. It disorients both the nesting female as well as the hatchlings. When the hatchlings emerge from the nest, they need to be going out to the water. And if there's lighting behind them on the beach, that can disorient them, and they'll actually turn around and go towards the inland areas and never make it to the water. So yeah, lighting is definitely a threat.
Yeah. And my last question for folks who are, spend their routine is to go out to the beach in the morning time to walk. What are signs of a nest? What should they be on the lookout for to identify an area that could potentially have a nest?
Well, there's three things. Obviously, if you see an adult, anytime you see a sea turtle on the beach, it's either injured or it's nesting, and we need to call that 1-866-TURTLE-5 phone number so someone can come take care of that turtle. But if you see the tracks, and I see you're showing some great pictures of tracks, you don't always see the actual nesting female. You may only see the tracks in the sand, which might look kind of like a UTV, except for this coming out of the water and then going back into the water. So tracks are a great indication that you've got a nest that needs to be protected. And then the hatchlings, some nests we don't catch and don't get into protected incubation, and you might see the little babies crawling across the beach, which would be it's a pretty amazing sight. And that's a hatchling release, public hatchling release photograph at Padre Island National Seashore. The public is invited every summer to come witness the release of hundreds of baby sea turtles.
Okay, Mary K. Skoruppa, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks for getting the word out. We appreciate it.